Where do they live? What is one or two things about your city or country that you really enjoy? The purpose of the activity is to give you an opportunity to practice your conversational speaking skills, to talk about something that you know more about than I would, as I listen and critique the information while learning what it is that you want to share. So, Tara, could you please tell me about your country and what it is that is wonderful about your country that you think we should know?
Okay, so my country is Iraq. I was born in the capital, Baghdad, and I grew up there. But then I moved to the northern part of Iraq, which is called Kurdistan. It's a province. Um, Kurdistan is very safe. It's a very safe province, unlike other parts of Iraq, unfortunately, like the capital and the southern regions. So this is a stereotype that I want to dispel, is that when people think of Iraq, they only think of killings and bombings and terrorists and these kind of things, which is real. But in my city, it's very safe and there are lots of foreigners and expats. And in Iraq, we have natural resources, especially in the northern part. So the scenery and the mountains, the waterfalls, they are breathtaking. And we have resorts also in the mountains. So it's fun, and that's what I really like about my city, is that it's multicultural. There are lots of minorities. I'm a Kurd, so there are Kurds, there are Christians, there are Yazidis, there are Turkish people also who have Turkish roots and who've been living here in Iraq since the Ottoman Empire. Um, so it's not all that bad in my country, even though it's been a war zone for lots of years. But it's trying to prosper and flourish and to take some serious strides toward being a more developed country.
Okay, very interesting. As I listen to you, Tara, and your English speaking skills are very, very good. And I wanted to say excellent, but I'll reserve that for later. But your speaking is very good. However, notice I'm using a transitional phrase, however.
However, yes.
I want to encourage you to use more transitional phrases when you're speaking. When you start to do this in your speaking, you will definitely do this in your writing. For example, you said that and we have resorts. You could say, in addition, we have resorts. This will eliminate the overuse of the words and the word but. You also said something about your city. Your city is very safe.
Yes.
Well, I think the region itself may be hostile or unsafe, but that's what you said. You said but you could say, but however, my city is safe. Now, I'm interested in knowing, what is the main language that is spoken? Is it Arabic, or is it Kurdish or Turkish?
The dominant language of Iraq, the official language is Arabic, but in my province, in my city, we speak Kurdish. So because I was born in Iraq and grew up because I was born in Baghdad and grew up in Baghdad, so my mother tongue is Arabic. But I also speak Kurdish because my parents are Kurds. Now, my mom, she's half Turkish, half Iranian, because there are Kurds in Turkey and Iran. So she speaks Turkish and Farsi, Iranian, and that's why I speak a little bit of both.
Okay. So how did your parents meet? Is travel, maybe these places are not that far apart, I don't know. But if they are, how did they meet?
My great-grandfather, he migrated to Iraq a long time ago. So my mom was born in Iraq, in Kurdistan, in my city specifically, Erbil. However, she moved to she moved to Baghdad. She went to a boarding school, and there she met my father when she got in college. They met there.
I see. Interesting. Interesting. All right then. Well, thank you very much for that elaborate answer. I did not recognize any of the vocabulary words that we have learned in the previous days.
Yeah.
And I tried to remember, especially ascertain, I would know the vocabulary words once I hear them because we've had several
Yes.
lessons together. But if you can, talk to me about something else that is important to you. Maybe there's a holiday or a special day that is coming up that you will celebrate. Tell me what that holiday is. How will you celebrate that holiday? Keeping in mind that I'm listening for you to use PETA, phrasal verbs, idioms if possible, transitional phrases, and the academic vocabulary that you currently possess. All right?
All right. So, holiday. We don't have a coming up holiday.
Or you can
But
tell
we
me
do.
about one that has passed.
Oh yeah, one that has passed is the Eid. Eid. I don't know what they call it in English, but it's kind of we. Now it's a little bit intricate for me to delve into these
So
topics.
maybe you can say one that is similar in the U.S. would be Thanksgiving. For us, Thanksgiving is coming up next Thursday. And this is when families get together, whether they like each other or not. We get together. Someone usually prepares a big turkey.
A big
We'll
turkey.
have dressings and uh, yams, cakes, pies. It's just a big feast that we're just so thankful and we're showing our gratitude.
So we have something that is similar to that, and it was 2 or 3 months ago.
Mm-hmm,
It's very traditional. We celebrate a thing that is similar to Thanksgiving.
mm-hmm,
Um, I think people celebrate this holiday because they want to acknowledge that they appreciate each other, and um, they want to bond to strengthen their bondings. Um, Sometimes even friends form sisterhood um, while they get together and celebrate.
mm-hmm,
In addition to celebrating um, this traditional holiday, now this whole thing is to um, prove and to ascertain that people need to uh, strengthen their bonds
mm-hmm.
and to put in perspective other people's ideas and
Okay.
in
So
addition to their thoughts.
so this begs a question for me. We also did an activity um, in a session where we talked about arguments,
Yes, yes, we
and
did.
I'm curious to know and to have you repeat. Do you often find that you argue with others, or you find that you do not argue with others in a complete sentence or sentences?
Mm. Um, hmm, that's a very interesting question, actually. I don't think I argue a lot. However, in family gatherings, we want to ascertain that we understand each other. So that might that might end up into getting some. Uh,
Okay, so what I notice and what I appreciate and value about you, Tara, is that you really do try to put into practice what you've learned. For example, at the very beginning of your response, you said, "That's an interesting question."
mhm,
When we do things like that, introduce an introductory phrase, "That's an interesting question," it gives our mind and our brain an opportunity to think about, what will my response be? Because in most cases, your brain says it's an either or, yes or no. But because I ask you to explain in greater details, your answer is going to be greater than simply yes or no. Yes, I do get into arguments, or no, I do not. So when we say, that's an interesting question, that's a great way to get into your response. So if I were to answer for myself, do I find that I argue a lot, or I find that I do not? I've never thought about that. So I would say that I usually avoid arguments for several reasons. One, to get into an argument means that there is not a win-win situation. Rather, I try to ask and understand or ascertain the other person's viewpoint. So your goal, to those that will watch now or watch later, is to put into practice vocabulary words that you are learning to use, sentence structures that you're learning. And all of these facilitate English fluency and comprehension. So that's a very good start. So now, Tara, I'll ask you to ask me a question, and I'll make it very difficult for you to come up with a response, but we'll see how this goes. And this is teaching you, as well as those who will view this video, how to engage in conversational English fluency.
So, Dr. Priscilla, tell me about a moment that you appreciate the most in your life.
I'm sorry, could you repeat the question, please?
Well, actually, I asked you about the most precious moment in your life.
Can you tell me what the word precious means?
Precious means you value that moment very much. It's a significant moment for you.
Okay. When I hear the word value, I think of money. Is this something that I would buy?
No, it's not something that you would buy. It's something that I would mostly feel. It's, I'm using the word value here in a figurative sense, not in a literal way. I'm using it figuratively, like maybe something you highly value, like morally, or something that you're feeling, that you're viewing.
Oh, I see. Well, as a matter of fact, today I'm wearing a new pair of earrings. I really value these earrings. These were given to me by my son for my birthday. I value them not because of the way they look or even the way they sound, because they are very noisy, but I do value them because they are a gift to me, which signifies that my son was thinking of me, and for this reason, I value my new earrings.
Oh, they're good.
Okay.
They're great. Yeah.
Okay, so that is an answer that would be sufficient. I pretended that I did not understand what you meant by value. So this is okay if you're talking to someone and you're not sure of what it is that they are asking or saying, then you can just ask for clarification. This will ascertain that you really understand the content and the context of the response. Now, let's talk about value in another way. Are these valuable in terms of money? So my answer would be, I'm not really sure what the value is in terms of cost, but since my son gave them to me as a gift, I don't think that they are the least expensive of earrings. What I like about them is that they are gold and they're very light, actually. What I don't like is that they're noisy.
They're noisy.
So they are not earrings that I will wear very often, but I will relish the thought that they are mine and that they are a gift.
Okay. Gotcha.
Now, let's go into a different direction for the benefit of those who are going to watch or those who are listening, and for the benefit of those who will listen to the recording. What are some areas that I can help you further to improve? I know that your main goal, Tara, is to improve your conversational English. As a pharmacist, I believe, you want to be able to not only speak the genre of your trade, but to be able to speak with people in layman's terms about something that is difficult to understand in the
Yes.
genre of a pharmacist. So what else could I help you with today?
Maybe with my usage of phrasal verbs, because I don't use them a lot. I use them sometimes. The most common one that I'm used to hearing and listening to in movies and TV shows, but however, I'm not used to using them.
Okay, so give me 3 of the phrasal verbs that you are accustomed to using, and then we'll talk about phrasal verbs that you are not accustomed to using.
Turn off and turn on. Shut down.
Okay, turn off, turn over, and shut down. So must have is an excellent one to use and to learn. And I'll give you an example. For people who want to use their cell phone and talk to people overseas like me without paying for it, I must have WhatsApp on my phone. If I do not have the WhatsApp application, I will have to pay for my long distance calls. So in order for me to make a long distance call without paying for it, I must have the WhatsApp application.
Okay.
Now, let me hear you tell me something that you can use must have. And for the remainder of our conversation, we're going to concentrate on using more phrasal verbs and transitional phrases. Also, this is going to deepen the opportunity for you to learn and grow with conversational English fluency.
Okay, great. So something I must have.
You can think about to be a pharmacist, something that is required.
Well, in order to improve and in order to improve and get get well, in order to succeed in my sector, I must have a decent level of fluency. Not just English, but in other languages too. But sometimes English. Okay.
Okay. So I was going to ask. So if you must have a decent English level of fluency, why is this necessary? Why must you have this?
In order to connect with people, I need to step into their world. So I need the language. I need to use the same terms that they're using. So in order to pull off this whole situation,
Good.
I need to see the world with the same language as they're seeing it. So that we'll be on the same page.
Okay, very good. So to be on the same page is an idiom, which is what you've used. You use pull off, must have, and you didn't get your ascertain in there, but you could have used the word ascertain in there as well. All right. Well, this was amazing. This was a great session, and I hope that you will join me on tomorrow at the same time, and I'll find a different topic that we will be discussing to practice our conversational English fluency.
Great, Dr. Priscilla.
I want to thank you for coming today. And can you give me your thoughts and feedback on today's lesson? I want you to know that it will be recorded. Others will be listening. And I hope that they too will find this of value and join us for the next remaining days.
Of course. So my feedback about this lesson is that it's very beneficial, not just for me, but I think for everyone who's listening and who's going to watch this lesson, because we talked about how to use phrasal verbs, how to use some, idioms to be on the same page. We ascertained our understanding of the ideas that we talked about, and however, I didn't cover all the vocabulary words that I learned throughout our last sessions. Uh, but hopefully I will in our next
Okay. Well,
session.
that is fantastic. Again, thank you, Tara, for joining me today. And as you said, in summary and in closing, we talked about phrasal verbs, we talked about transitional phrases, and how to impact our English fluency by utilizing vocabulary words that we have previously learned from other sessions. Thank you so much for joining me today, and I look
Thank you
forward
so much.
to seeing you tomorrow. And as I'm going to always close, welcome home.
Thank you,
Bye-bye.
Dr. Stella. Bye-bye. Bye.